So if everything looked good, and I went through a fine-tooth comb, and that net was good, and I know, hey, these are good checks, because I've done my due diligence and what I call reconciliation number 2, gross to net. Is that a good number? Did we get all the deductions? If so, I can print checks or do a direct deposit, because that kind of locks down your numbers.
Okay.
Up until that time, I can change setup, reprocess, do anything I want. But at some point in time, I'm going to lock down that net, because I'm saying, let's give them some money. Okay.
So once I print these checks now, what's best practice? What do most people do with this report? Do they print it? Do they export it? Can I retrieve it at any given time?
It's in the database forever.
Okay.
That report is available to the end of time.
All right. So you hear of companies kind of going paperless, but like with Maxwell, once you kind of have a one-shot deal. If you don't print your report, you're screwed.
Yeah. Not in this step. All of these reports are dynamic, can be run at any time. Plus, we'll show you in a second where the system is going to store a copy of these checks, or if we do an EFT, it'll be that direct deposit stub that you need to give people. Then your question is, do I print that and stuff it in a letter, or do I set up an email address on their employee setup and push that PDF electronically to notify them of exactly this information? Hey, what were my earnings? What were my deductions?
Yeah.
And you push that out into an email that they have given you that will put that PDF. And then it's going to be stored on the record here in just a second.
Well,
and it can be pulled up and accessed at any point in time. That's kind of a copy of that check.
With the human resources, is there going to be any kind of portal where people would just log in and get their information versus us pushing out paper
Not
emails?
automatically, you would have to
attachments on an email?
build one, but you certainly could if you could do that.
Key style is the one we were looking at. We haven't purchased it, but that's the one we are ordered to purchase.
Because to me, it doesn't seem very secure if you're pushing out attachments on emails.
Actually, it should be.
Should be.
Email should be. I mean, it's a federal, like mail, you know what I mean, to be tampered with.
Because like with my daughters, you know, they're Costco employees, you know, so they log into a portal at the end of the year. They get all their W-2s and
that's what we want to get as
email.
Keystyle.
They can look at their benefits, and it's all in one portal.
Have you ever messed with Keystyle before?
You know, what a lot of customers do is, since it's this SQL thing, there are other kind of third-party portals. They just link into the data, and then they're accessing it through this little ODBC link, you know, and just pulling it through a portal, which is what I do when I get, because we have a third-party payroll service. And
Now,
you just
Viewpoint
log into
doesn't
the
do their
service.
own payroll?
No.
That kind of tells you something, huh?
No,
Not the big boys.
we got a UltraPro, we have a payroll service for whatever reason.
Okay.
Yeah, but we'll figure out Keystyle once we get that. I just didn't want to get it all in right now. But it is a full HR portal to do, you know, W-2, W-4, paycheck stubs, all the health benefits, all that stuff.
Kind of
basically.
puts that all in
And it's
one.
a web portal, cloud-based, pulls stuff from the SQL database, like he's saying. So,
And it's cost effective.
yeah, it was cheap. It's really cheap.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so what next?
So let's go ahead and cancel out of there. So let's go ahead and for these three guys, we didn't get any direct deposit stuff, so the system thinks I got to print them a check. Okay, so let's go to PR check print, please. So right below your missing time cards, and we're going to add a little bit to the workflow there. This is where now.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's okay. So did we talk about what checks we were going to order for AP and payroll? The two choices are pre-printed check stock and MICR, which is blank check stock, which requires customization of a blank piece of paper to put all the.
Well, I guess let's back up on that. We had talked about ordering pre-printed check stock, but if we have 95% of our admin employees, or 99% of our admin employees on direct deposit, and we can push out a piece of paper or a paper notification, would we then need to print them on any kind of check stock?
What happens is, if everybody gets that, then fine, you can email it. If there was still one person who didn't have an email or something and you
Yeah,
wanted
we
to print that,
will
most people go.
occasionally have some live checks, obviously.
Well, I'm still talking about direct deposit notifications.
Oh, okay.
Normally, I have very few customers that print a fancy paper. Normally, they just go to white stock. Does that make sense? And once we,
Talking check stock, if we do direct deposit, then we can print on white paper because you're emailing out the notifications. So you're not actually putting the checks on check stock. And we do live checks. I mean, we have some check stock because we do our bonus checks usually on live checks and a few other things.
Yep.
And then if the one-offs, the few people that are on a live check, which is few and far between. But now on the union side, we definitely have a handful that are
lots of checks.
more so live.
And we're thinking of going to pre-printed check stock.
Yes.
Okay.
So how does it work when you have 85, I mean, you guys may have already talked about this, 85 paychecks, and 5 of them are live checks, and 80 of them are EFT?
Yeah.
For the situation of, okay, printing all the EFTs onto plain paper or email notification.
Go to programs here, just a sec. So let's cover this on your nice workflow. So go to EFT payments, drag and drop that into workflow. And then go to direct deposit print, which is 2 above it, and drag and drop this into workflow. Let's go to workflow.
I got that little round circle with a line through it, so did it work?
I think you dropped them into programs and not workflow. Click in here, grab that EFT payments, and make sure we drag and drop it into that one.
There you go.
And now go to direct deposit print and drag and drop that into that one.
So that's why I got the circles, because I was trying to put them back in the
In
same
the same
size.
place, yeah. So now hit EFT right below check print,
Whoa,
and
I
then
like where I put it, okay.
let's put direct deposit print right below EFT payment. And then let's pull our check register down to the bottom. So basically, there's 2 programs to pay people. Print checks is people who have a machine check, you got to print a check and write a check
Okay.
number. The EFT payments is downloading that notcha file. It's a fixed format text file for the banking thing. And then after I do that, that's a file I upload through the portal to my bank. And then direct deposit print will print that little check stub, direct deposit stub we
Okay,
talked
so the
about,
check print
and
will,
attach it.
the check print will just print just live checks.
Yes,
And then we'd have to do print the direct deposit print to print onto plain paper.
after you do the EFT file to the
EFT
bank.
file. Okay.
That,
Do
and
it
I'll show
in 2
you.
separate batches or whatever.
Yeah, so
Okay.
those are the actual
Yeah.
steps you got to do to cover both your bases.
Okay.
Giving a guy a machine check and or getting EFT means electronic funds transfer, commonly known as direct deposit.
Okay.
Okay, so in this situation, are you driving again?
I am driving.
Thank you so much. Let's go into your employee piece. So in this situation, this would all be EFT and or checks. So we're going to do that. So let's kind of go in here and talk about this. Let's go to Robert, hit F5. Remember, F5 takes you directly into the employee setup. So on the additional info, what we're going to ask you about is hit the direct deposit tab. So this guy, if he actually does become a direct deposit guy,
Mm-hmm.
then we'll have all of his information filled out here. Hit the additional info tab. Now, method of pay stub delivery. You're going to want email with attachment unless you ever went to
Like a portal.
the portal, then you'd email as notification. All it would say is your paycheck for period end date 12/3 is available for you. but there would be no attachment PDF
Yeah,
with the gross to net stuff. It would be incumbent upon you to log into the portal and poke around for security purposes, whatever. So if I do this, then I gotta go to the info tab, and we gotta make sure, most people have people sign off saying, that's the email that I want their PDF, because it is going to attach a PDF to an email and send it to that email address designated right there.
so we'll have
And usually
to,
people get a little sign off just to CYA, saying, hey, do you want to get an electronic thing to your thing? You know, and then sign off what's your email and the, or whatever until we go to the portal or
Okay.
whatever, you know, just
Okay.
to cover your derriere. Okay,
so if they opt to not receive the email, then we would just basically
yeah, back
put
on that
the-
additional
just
info,
put none.
that will be set to none and save, and it will be the,
No. I don't like that save and
Really
delete
close,
right
huh?
next
Yeah.
to each other.
this X and this X are two totally, one closes you out of the program, the other one asks you, do you want to delete me? You know, you're like, no, no, no.
So ultimately, probably first quarter, as we got closer to rolling this out, we could look at
Usually
sending
what,
out notification or getting something, the
usually what we'll
form
do is,
out.
we'll use you and maybe a group of folks as guinea pigs, you know, during the test environment.
Yes.
And then once, we'll do a little cleanup, we'll do it, we'll kind of mess around with you guys.
Yeah,
And once you can send it around to yourself, you're like, okay, and now I can roll this out because I see how the game's working. Did you get your direct deposit? Did you get, yeah, okay.
yeah,
And
okay,
then we'll roll that out company-wide at some point in time.
okay.
So in this situation, I don't have to run the EFT thing only because we don't have it set up quite yet, but I got to print checks.
Okay.
Minimize this. Okay. And let's go and check print. So now, hit enter. Now pay date is enter. What is pay date? Friday for you guys?
Yeah,
So 12/3 was the period end date, and then that's going to be your Friday after that, which is pay date. Okay? Now, when they come off the printer, since you don't have very many, hit your little down arrow. The choices are, do you want to sort it by job, by a custom check print over, by crew, by employee? Doesn't sound like you have that many, but I have some customers with hundreds or thousands of employees. So they have a custom sort because they got like FedEx things from the home office to different branch offices. So how those checks come off the printer, so they don't have to use sort with a big table and kind of do some sort of hand sorting. You can create a method for how they want to come off.
okay,
Now, so certainly in your office, there's only a handful of checks, so that would be easy, whoever's printing those. For your field guy, of the 85 employees, how many checks are coming off for those guys?
actual live checks,
Yeah.
probably, well, right now,
15,
probably,
20?
no,
Less,
like 5,
5, and
right
everybody
now.
else is direct deposit.
yes.
So really, this would come into play if you had a ton of people getting checks and you wanted some sort of method to how they're sorting
we-
coming off the printer, other than employee sequence or something like that.
So basically, we have a potential job where the overall field guys out there will increase, and there is a good possibility that you'll have a lot of travelers, and they typically don't do direct deposit. So we could basically do it by job,
Yeah.
and it would print
Yeah.
those.
To the last job. So when you do time card entries, when you post those time cards, what's happening is on the employee setup, there's a dynamically updated field that says, what was the last job I worked on? So in that situation, it's obviously a big job. Did you say a Microsoft thing or something like that? It's a big job one on there. And if they were on there for a long time, that would be a very logical sort. So it would do it by job. You're like, hey, scooping all Microsoft jobs together. And then my couple other little stragglers would be in there with whatever they're doing. But that would be a good one to automatically sort by that method.
Okay.
Okay, so down here, once we order your checks, I'm going to talk to you guys about that. In Maxwell, in that bank, do you know what your current payroll check numbers are? Are you in the 10,000 range, 50,000 range, or something like that?
No, we're in, actually, I can tell you here real quick.
Because what we want you to do in Vista is, we're going to bring over all your uncleared checks at some point in time. If you're on check number 40,000, we want to start
start.
Vista 50,000 to infinity. Does that make sense? We don't want to have them bump into these things. So, and it's just a unique check number that will increment. So when you order pre-printed check stock, we want you to order kind of a high range to infinity above any check numbers, both in AP and payroll, just so we start and go to infinity.
So we're at 160,000.
So maybe we'd start at 200,000 or something.
Okay.
And
Okay.
immediately when you saw a Vista check, you're like, yeah, starting at the twos and going up to wherever it wants to go. And same thing with AP, would do kind of the same thing. So here, notice it doesn't see any check numbers, so it wants to start on 1, 2, 3, 4. But when we order check numbers, we'd be doing 200,000. So I'm holding my checks in my hand, they're pre-printed, they start at 200,000. I got to figure, another thing you got to talk about is how do they feed through the printer? Do they feed from the top? Do I put them face
Well,
down, feet first, or how do they
can you-
pull from the printer?
Can you change that week to week because depending on who's processing payroll?
You're going to want to order your pre-printed checks sorted in the box by some
Well,
method.
so they'll go top to bottom in the box.
Okay.
But I guess this won't drive. I mean, ultimately, if I print checks, I have to literally put them in the opposite order.
If your printers pull differently, top to bottom or bottom to top,
We just
then
have to manually do it.
that's an issue. You know, because when you get order from the printer, they're going to ask you
Yeah.
what
they'll
check
go-
numbers you want to start on and how do you want them in the box.
Yeah. they'll go
So it
top to
knows how
bottom.
to pull them out of the tray properly. So we'll have to do that. Which is the one you most commonly
Top to
use
bottom.
or something, and make sure you order those. Because I have a couple of clients that chose Parley, and their first boxes, they had to resequence them all. It
Yeah.
was like, we don't want to do that. You know, there's no future in that. Okay, so now your little comment there,
Yes.
if you were having like a Christmas party, so go ahead and click in there, please. And in your comment, it'll print on the check stub. Let's type in funky sweater party on Thursday. So whatever you type in here is going to print on the check stub of the check. So if you're having a holiday picnic or Merry Christmas, you don't have to put anything in here. But if you put something in there, you'll see where it's going to print here in a second on the crystal report, which the checks are just a crystal report. That's all they are. And this is a little text field that will print. Okay, enter. So print. So now we'll pretend we'll show my check number 1, you know, just because with check number 0 was our last check in our test company because
Switch to end of 3.
okay. So now it already knows how many checks.
Switch
It's
to-
looking into your employee pay sequence
This one?
control.
Blue beam. There you go.
Yeah, let's go ahead and hit print to file, just because I want to just finish this, say okay. And
So I have a question with this. So typically what we do is
Yeah.
when we get to the check printing portion, we generate and we print it to screen and we go through and we just visually, again, check it. So, and then we go, and then we close that and then we go in and we physically print the checks. So does that give us,
well, we can either print a PDF and then print, or we can do enough testing where all we do is start, hopefully, this crystal report will QA, and when we print this, let's hit save and let's look at what this report is going to look like. It's called PR check print stub. Can we put this in a safe place, just because it's going to have
I'm going to leave it up
Okay.
underneath the.
imports? Okay, hit save and hit close. So,
Hold on just one second, Don.
yeah,
I'm
sure.
gonna go meet him and fill his gas tank right now, so,
So is it still not working?
no, nothing.
Okay, I'll
So I'm just
request,
gonna go fill him up right now. He's right by the shop, I'm gonna go to here, so that gives you a little bit of time.
well, and that's, I'll probably just order him a new card and have it overnighted. Okay, thanks.
So cancel out of here. So now stop for just a sec. Now pull, so right at this point in time, pull this to the right. Go back down to the bottom. Let's look at our employee pay sequence controls. Hit refresh, please, on that little stinker. So
So now it's giving you.
check number 1, 2,
reference.
3. So Robert's got check 1,
And a pay.
Tyler's got check 2, and the third gentleman's got check number 3.
Okay,
So the system believes that these guys are paid because we would have directed those checks to a printer, you know, and then, so pull over here. So what happens over here, let's say you sent Dawn over there to get those checks. Well, Dawn came back and spilled his coffee on them darn things on the way back from the printer. So go to existing checks. So start on check number 1, ending on check number 3, hit refresh. You're like, that's the last time I sent Dawn over to the printer to get those checks. And now, clear existing checks, numbers cannot be reused because if they're pre-printed checks, I can't reuse them, can I?
Yes.
You gotta shred those 3 checks that I spilled that
Okay.
coffee on, and then I gotta start doing that. So hit void, oops, sorry, I hit void and that's what popped up. Okay, all the check numbers displayed will be recorded in void, and then you can't reuse them because Don spilled coffee all over them. You wanna continue? Yeah,
Okay.
okay. Now, brings you back here, where does it want to
It's
start
next
on?
is 4, okay.
4. So let's go ahead and print.
So I have a question.
And now you send Corinne over to the printer to get the darn things. Oops, and let's, was trying to save this somewhere different.
You said the desktop. No, get to it quick. No, it's fine, just go back to desktop.
Oh,
There you go. Just hit save.
just hit save?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
There we go.
so this is what the standard crystal report looks like. So notice check number 4, there's your earnings, period to date and year to date. Deductions, period to date and year to date. And then down towards the bottom, we have your funky sweater party on Thursday. If you'd have put nothing in there, it would have suppressed and nothing would be on there. But if you do put something, it will print on the stub. And then you've got your check face. So the top 2/3 is your check stub. The bottom 1/3 is your check face. And that's what's printing on there by default. It's all your earnings and your deductions, period to
So
date
where does
and
the-
year to date.
Oh, okay. Okay.
What does the check look like? Scroll up a little bit.
So it's pre-printed, all the font is already pre-printed with the signature line and the boxes and kind of all that kind of
Zero.
stuff.
Scroll up. More. I just want to see. So if they had PTO, would that show their balance on here?
There is a separate little PTO thing we haven't talked about yet that tracks PTO balances and stuff.
Balances.
It would print down here,
Okay.
and the PTO taken and stuff would be here. So there's an optional thing for the little PTO balance.
Okay.
So basically, this is kind of a crystal report that's really printing a check, because everything that really prints out of Vista is a crystal report. Invoices, purchase orders, checks, they're all crystal reports.
I know.
Okay, so cancel out of here, please. So Corinne didn't spill coffee on hers, so now I'm not going to kind of do anything. I can just close out of that check print over there because I got my checks. And now she hit refresh, and now it knows what checks were issued to those guys. Robert's got check 4, Tyler 5, and Scott 6. Okay, and they're in good shape.
So I have a
Yeah.
question. So if we were to use that whole accrual piece, so this says paid month, so that's when they were
Based on
actually
the
paid.
check date.
Does it show on here if you have any accrual? Where it's
Vacation or
posting,
PTO?
where it's posting, so this basically covered the end of November, first of December.
Yeah.
In this screen, does it show anywhere where it's saying, okay, well, I accrued 4 days into November and posted, that accrual function?
No, that's the next step.
Okay.
This is
I'm always getting ahead of myself.
This is just check information.
Okay.
Talking about did everybody get paid. So basically, since we're in field payroll, if you got 85 guys, I expect to see 85 either checks or EFTs all sitting in this. Then I know everybody got paid. Because if they ain't in here, they didn't get paid. because they didn't have time cards, but we got the missing time card report. We can run to find out, hey, who didn't get a time card? Oh yeah, his grandma passed away and he said he'd be off in Maine for a week or so, and so there's a reason why he didn't get paid. That kind of stuff. You'll know the usual suspects on why somebody didn't have any time that week.
And
Okay,
I'm assuming too that now we've printed checks for these 3 individuals that now amounts are posted to the GL chart of accounts?
not yet.
They're not yet?
No,
Okay.
because we haven't posted, because every time you post, validate, preview, post. You know those little posting journals? But before we do that, I want to kind of show you some stuff. So, now, notice,
Sorry.
no, you're doing fine. I know you're trying to take care of them.
multitasking.
You got a little fire.
You typed a U up there.
She says, which keyboard am I working on? Here.
I need to move this thing over here.
Okay. Now,
Okay, we can close
here's
that.
a little feature going on here.
Okay.
Now, Robert, hey, what's going on? There's something attached to Robert's check record. Show attachments. Okay, now in this situation, there's 2, because
You had one was a void.
one will be check 1 and one will be check 4, because I actually printed twice to him.
Okay.
Let's go to the second one, just to kind of, and either double click or hit view. So this is another, oh,
Well, you don't have permission, which is good.
Secured by an attachment type.
so we've got, in payroll, since payroll's got the most sensitive
PR
information,
sensitive is the type.
we have one called 33 called PR sensitive,
Yeah,
just to kind of keep people from payroll sensitive information. Our intent isn't to keep you from it if you're the super user, but our intent is certainly to keep people that shouldn't have access to payroll sensitive information away
What's
from
crazy
those.
is that at this point, it actually secured you, but we were able to see all the information through the reports.
well, through the payroll process,
Yeah.
but
But
the
not
thing
the
is.
attachment type, because you have access to the programs and the reports, but there's attachment type security that's a little bit different.
Because
Gotcha.
ultimately, so is there the possibility, I mean, seeing how this is an attachment out there, if someone was looking at job cost posting and looked at someone's labor and wanted to look at any attachments, this is something that they would block it from?
Yes.
Yes, okay, that's where.
Yeah, attachment security is separate from programs, which is writing to the database, reports, which is just reporting all of those 1,300 reports from the database. Attachment is a separate type of security that can or cannot be secured based upon, sometimes in AP and app, people can see invoices, but payroll stuff, I want to make sure it's locked down just because of the sensitive nature of payroll. Okay, so close out of there. Now cancel out of here for just a second. Minimize this for just a second. Go to the bottom left, please, to Viewpoint Administration and Programs. Hit BA Attachment Type Security. Hit F4. Go to the very bottom. There's one called PR Sensitive Information. So it's secured right now. Say OK. Security group, hit F4. At some point in time, we're going to want to create some security groups.
Okay.
And for attachment types and say who has access to these sensitive things, and then put them in this little table right here. So that's kind of one of the fine tuning of security we need to work on to make sure it's, hey, does everybody have access to what they need and not access to stuff that they shouldn't need?
It's kind of nice, it defaults to no access.
Yeah.
Full access.
Otherwise, people would be like, oh, okay. So cancel out, and we'll work on that and make sure we got that all stuff. Okay. But basically, what's going to happen is, and the same thing is true with direct deposits. Each employee, when we do an EFT, it's going to attach, when you do the direct deposit print, it's going to attach that little stub looking things to that. And then when you hit email, it grabs it from that based upon that employee setting that says, do you get an email or not? It looks here, and that's what it does to push the email when we start using that.
Okay.
So it is as far as her question is, hey, can we kind of go paperless and do I not have to print stuff? Nice thing is we're attaching a lot of that stuff based on security, and then we can email from these locations automatically as part of our, does somebody want to get a printed direct deposit stub, or do they want to get it to an email at the email address they provide us before we get it into the portal thing later on to step 2. Okay. So basically, at this point in time, we're feeling pretty good. We've handed out our checks. The net pays have been validated. And now we're going to that next step is I haven't posted to my jobs, posted to my GL, updated my accumulators or anything like, because I have not posted yet.
Okay.
I posted my time cards a long time ago
Yeah.
to get time cards into batches to post time, but I haven't posted my week ending payroll to jobs, to
Payroll
general ledger.
full.
I haven't updated all of my other ledgers from my payroll subsidiary ledger.
Okay.
So cancel out here.